Well, hello, White Sox fans. Welcome to another edition of White Sox Daily Life. My name is Ian Eskridge. I'm here with my co-host, the Danny Miller. How you doing, Danny?
Doing pretty okay, I guess. Uh, you know, I'm doing better than the White Sox. Let's say that. How about, I mean, it's not difficult to do these days, but you know, just hanging in there and I'm only checking in on White Sox games now and again here lately cuz I'm just not going to do it to myself. So, you know, I I choose to lead a happier life here recently. So, anyhow, how you doing, man?
Well, I will say it is certainly a better strategy than actually watching White Sox games. You know, if you want to be happy, watching White Sox games is probably not the move. Um, and watching Sierra's pitching for Luis Roberts' second round of the home run derby. Holy cow! What a terrible performance. That's the first round was okay. The second round, he was all over the place. Throwing sinkers in there. Just lobbing them. They're dropping 6 inches coming into home. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Luis, we talked about this as we were rolling into the show here. He had easy power in the first round. And when the pitch was there, he had easy power in the second round. Unfortunately, he couldn't get Sierra to lay one in for him at all.
Yeah.
Anything that was close to an okay pitch, he took a long way, but he didn't see very many of those. So unfortunate. We were hoping for more because we're not getting much excitement out of the White Sox team lately. So, maybe a home run derby win would have been something exciting to
It would have
you
been
know, talk
something.
about. Yes, that's it. It would have been something.
At
It's
least
literally
something.
all it is. So,
Yeesh.
yeah, man. So it's over, but he put up a respectable showing, so I'll take that. He made it out of the first round. Unlike some past competitors for the White Sox in the home run derby. So yeah, only Frank Thomas has won it in the past, but we've had a couple of guys go out there and just tank in the first round, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, you know, there's just not. I mean, not that Luis Robert can't hit a low pitch for a home run, but when he's, trying to hit home runs and the ball is going to different zones every pitch, and he you know, can't find any sort of consistency whatsoever for the pitches. I mean, it's just difficult to, consistently hit home runs. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, big difference in when you're taking hacks in a game, and pitcher makes a mistake with a breaking ball down that Luis can take for a ride, but when you're swinging the bat every 3 or 4 seconds or so here and they're coming in quick and you don't really have time to reset, you kind of need that ball to catch the right part of the zone, his where his power stroke is. So we all know that Luis Robert has kind of a hot zone up and in a little bit, and Sierra just couldn't find it.
yeah, I mean, just the top portion of the strike zone. I mean, literally, that's all he had to do, and he couldn't do it. Everything
Right.
was, he was throwing it to the top of the zone, and it was dropping like 3-4 inches, and it's just like, well, no one, and it's like
Yeah,
listening to
put your
the
first down, Sally.
yeah, listening to the commentator say, oh, well, this looks way different than his first round. Well, yeah, duh. So, yeah, that was tough to watch. Well, what are you gonna do? Um, So at least like you said, with the Adley Rutschman um, first first round, I was not thinking that he couldn't do it, but I was like, man, Adley's putting up some solid numbers here. You know,
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, we could see another first round exit. When Adley was asked how he felt about his number that he put up, he said, I feel like it's respectable. and the crowd was out there behind him. And I also felt like it was a respectable number, and I had a little bit of that jitters for at least in a second round. And again, like I said, Luis went out there and he did see a lot better pitches in that first round, and put some uh, put some big swings on some balls. And I mean, so far he's got the longest one of the tournament. So kudos to him for that. 484 that's not a weak shot.
Yeah, I find it very hard to blame Luis Robert for that second round performance. I mean, I'm actually, the fact that he did as well as he did with that garbage pitching, it's pretty
Right.
amazing.
To put up 22 in the second round with the pitches he was seeing, it just goes to show you that the guy's got some raw strength and power.
Yeah, for sure.
As if we didn't already know that,
Yeah, of
after
course.
watching what he's done the last, month, 5 weeks here. It's been he's been really tearing the cover off of it in game speed. So I expected him to put on a show. I wasn't quite sure what kind of a show it was going to be, but I knew we were going to see a few big ones, and he didn't disappoint in that department.
No, he did not. Yeah, it's just standard fare for us. It's
Hey, Rudels.
disappointment. What's up, John Rudels? How you doing, buddy? Yeah. So we'll get past this disappointment and talk about another disappointment. Last.
Do we have to?
Yeah, I know, right? It's unfortunate.
I mean, we're here, I guess.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
White Sox dropped 2-3 to the Cardinals. It's like Cardinals win tallest midget contest.
Right.
Beating up on the White Sox, and you get 5 innings from Tukey, and he gives up 2 runs. You get 7 innings from Gio. He gives up 2 runs. You lose one game 3-0, and you lose the other one 4-3 later on in the game. And I think I think it was the shutout game. Elvis Andrus had 2 hits, and he was the only player with multi-hit game. And I think that they had like 5 or 6 hits for the entire game.
Yeah.
And
yeah, the offense is I mean, it's just been anemic at best. Aside from Luis Robert hitting a few bombs here and there, not much of anybody else is doing anything.
Yeah.
Before we get like too deep into that, I do want to ask you, what did you think about Benintendi leading off?
I don't think it. I think it's it's been okay. I mean,
I think so too. But now, what do you? I guess my before you get into that, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I guess before I get into that, the reason I'm even bringing it up is because I thought Benintendi was good, and then we make the move to Zach Remillard. And I guess I kind of wanted to get your comparison between the two and see how you felt about that, one versus the other.
Well, first off, I don't know if you saw the article or not, but there's an article that just came out that Benintendi's wrist is hurting.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's why he sat for the games, and to get him a little bit of a break going into the All-Star break. But the article came out and said that his wrist injury / uncomfortability comes from before his time with the White Sox. So, you give a guy $75 million, and I don't know.
Knowing that he has some prior, what I don't know if you want to call it an injury, but obviously if he's been feeling it for this long, it's at least a hindrance.
Yeah, well, I mean, he had an injury last year, so that sidelined him for the last bit of the season. But just the whole thing is just I can't say that the guy's not motivated because, when it comes to the grand scheme of things about what is a problem for the White Sox, Andrew Benintendi is not the issue that is plaguing the White Sox. I mean, there's
No.
so much other bad baseball being played. And he's not the most fleet of foot and best outfielder out there, but he's definitely solid. And he's put up a decent OBP from the leadoff position. So that's why Zach Remillard got moved there. But my main issue here, I guess, is that I understand that Remillard's hitting the ball and he's hitting like 370 or something like that when they put him into the leadoff position. But he was doing well, like batting 8th or 9th. So why? I mean, of all the people to put in the leadoff spot, and I mean, not that there is a plethora of guys that are lighting it up out there that you want to put in the leadoff spot. I mean, who else is going to go there? I mean, TA, hitting like 120, for the last like month or something. And has like a negative WRC plus at this point. I mean, there's not a whole lot of options there, and you got Eloy trying to call timeout on an at bat on what was that, on Sunday, and just he didn't get his timeout, so he just started walking back to the dugout and rung up. He was 0 for 5 with like 4 strikeouts or 3 strikeouts or something.
Yeah, White Sox Twitter loved that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, most people said, "What's going on here? What's going on?" And it's like without even, like taking the time to find out what happened, which was that he didn't get his timeout that he wanted called. So
right.
Now, I condone what he did? No, of course not.
Absolutely not.
But that's what was going on there, and while stupid and not the best reaction to what happened, there was at least an underlying reason for it, and it wasn't just that he was deciding to go to the bench, So there was something going on that wasn't super common knowledge, but yeah, I don't know, man. Just the whole team looks dead. They look like they checked out. Not that they were playing well beforehand, but it looks like they checked out after they won the first game of the series.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. We talked a little bit about this last week. This was a 9-game stretch where the White Sox should have come out with minimum 6 wins. When you look at the 3 teams that they had played in that 9-game stretch, and when you watch that first series against Oakland, you just knew that they looked like they were pretty much checked out. They're the rumors again swirling about veteran players wanting to be traded away. Kind of just seem to be cemented at that point. Guys are just like, I just need to get out of this environment. It doesn't seem like it's a very good environment right now. They look a lot like the last half of the Tony La Russa, the second season of Tony La Russa last year, where they're just dead. They're not having fun. There's no excitement. There's no energy. There's nothing happening in the dugout. The only time you do see anything, and I'll even say this: Luis Robert home run celebrations in the dugout, where they throw the hat and the jacket on, don't seem as exciting anymore. Guys are just kind of going through the motions. So, I think I just think that some changes need to be made, and we're not going to see anything different until that happens.
Yeah. So I think that this is all going to solve itself as far as you calling for changes to happen. I think it's fairly I'd say it's a fairly easy and accurate thing to say that there's going to be numerous changes um, coming
You
to
know,
the
over the
team
next
here.
few weeks there.
Yeah, I know. Giolito said he does not want to be traded um, because, of course, he's going to say that because I know he has respect for the fans, but I don't think he has a whole lot of respect for the organization itself, despite the fact that they have done some things for him and whatever you want to say. But between him and Lance Lynn, and Kendall Graveman and Joe Kelly, I think that most of those guys are going to be on the way out. I wouldn't be surprised if the White Sox sold really high on Gregory Santos either. I mean,
Right.
say what you want about wanting, to lose a couple of the guys of, this caliber. I don't think that, I just don't think that they're going to hang on to him because they'll be able to get really good value for a couple of those guys. So,
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think we'll probably see a lot of that bullpen kind of get dismantled and you know thrown in a few different directions. Um, we brought up Liam and excuse me, Joe Kelly recently about possible being trade candidates. But with the guys that are kind of on the injured list right now, I don't know what kind of value you're going to get back. Liam, obviously, if he shows any sign of being on his way back to being healthy, could be a trade piece for a team looking to bolster their bullpen. But it's difficult to expect to get much back when a guy's been on the shelf since most of the season.
yeah, that's the thing that's hard about that one is that, yes, he's eating up quite a bit of payroll, and I would understand, the trading of him, but the fact is that unless he's healthy, you can't, you really can't expect them to be able to deal him, you know. And you're muted. Are you muted?
Not anymore.
Um, yeah, I don't, and it'll be sad to lose him, and he's very exciting and awesome to have on the White Sox, but I don't know. I just if they hold on to him, I mean we're talking like when he's right, of course. We're talking best closer in baseball type guy, and
Right.
that's the kind
Right.
of guy that
Absolutely.
you're going to be able to get some, especially in the fact that you have another year on it. You're going to be able to get a ton for that. But, if he's not healthy going into the trade deadline, who's going to trust that he's okay, considering that he was just coming back from cancer,
Right.
and didn't look, I mean, he looked good, but he didn't look like superstar shutdown closer of the
No,
year,
I would say he was probably in like the 70th percentile for like all bullpen pitchers when he came back, but that is not the shutdown closer that Liam Hendrick is. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's normally 98, 99 percentile type guy. He's in the top 1% of all bullpen pitchers in the game. And that's just not where he was when he came back. And then unfortunately he goes down with the injury. And, the trade deadline is pretty much upon us at this point. The talks have got to be getting heated amongst the teams right now. I mean, there's real offers being tossed around out there at this point in the season. Whether or not we're hearing much about them right now, or if there's any progress being made from team to team, but I guarantee you those GMs are extremely busy. There's not a single GM in the game of baseball right now that isn't having conversations with somebody, whether you're on the buying side or the selling side. Even the GMs that probably plan to stand pat, they're they're listening to offers. Whether or not they decide to make one is a different story, but they're out there and it's happening. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate that we're in a situation, and maybe it's not that unfortunate. Obviously, being able to hold on to a pitcher of Liam's caliber isn't a bad thing, you know. But again, that all depends on if he comes back. And honestly, this year's a wash. So, you got to think maybe if we look at it from the standpoint of, okay, this year's a wash, let's go ahead and do whatever we need to do to get him healthy for next year. If nobody is going to be a potential buyer for him, where you're going to get any kind of, value in return. So, there's a couple of different ways to look at his situation. But again, when you're looking at a team that's obviously lifeless. It's painfully obvious that a couple of schleps like us, doing a podcast and live stream can see it. Everybody in the world can see it, and you know, it just you would hope that you could make some moves and bring some things back. So you brought up Geo. I think it's a foregone conclusion with him that I mean, he can say all he wants. But the reality is he's not coming back here next season unless the White Sox lose their mind and decide to throw a bag of money at him. But I don't see that happening. So, as much as I hate to say it, and I really enjoyed watching him pitch here on the South Side, especially when, he was good. Um, you got to get something in return for him. You can't let him just walk away for nothing.
Oh,
At this point, you got to do what's best.
au contraire, Pierre. I think that you will see that the way some things have happened here, that you could certainly see him walk and not get anything. But yeah, no, I do see him being dealt as well. So John Heyman on 670 The Score did mention that the White Sox will they'll start selling pieces this week, probably maybe next week. Said that they likely won't trade Cease, Jimenez, or Andrew Vaughn, and I would assume, he says Luis Robert as well, but I would assume that one player is probably a no go. The other ones,
I would feel like he's got to be about the only untouchable on the entire team.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, anybody else on the roster? I can't think of anybody else on the roster that I wouldn't go, okay. I mean, Eloy, guy's got, the bat is dangerous, but the health also dangerous. And, we've seen him destroy his body doing stupid things. And we've also, with, like even that strikeout the other day where he just turned around and walked away from the plate. That's
just as mentally checked out as the other guys. And, it's one thing to talk about veterans. I don't necessarily call Eloy a veteran right now, even though up for, a handful of years now. Problem is he's barely got a full season of games played under his belt, because he's injured all the time. So, to me, he's still a kid. And when you talk about veterans that are checked out and ready to be traded, he's kind of acting like those guys. And, I'm sorry, bud, but you haven't earned the right to even say or think that way right now. You've got to get yourself right and stay right before you can start walking around talking about, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, part of the, allure to watching a guy like Zach Remillard play, where he's just, I mean, granted, there was a bad bunt to first base the other day, but talk about a guy
had he
that executed,
it might have worked out. You know what I mean? But it was
right.
a terrible bunt.
Yeah, no, it was a bad bunt, and like that's gonna happen. I mean, generally he is rock solid when it comes to doing the little things that matter, and unfortunately it just didn't work out that time, and and he also got moved into the leadoff spot, so that just puts a microscope on him that much more. And I think in the leadoff spot, I think he was like 0 for 8 or something like that with like a walk or something.
Right.
So obviously that
Yeah.
didn't work out so hot, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I will avoid TMZ stuff. But Xavier did tell me that there's some stuff going on with Lucas Giolito as well that's on TMZ. You are welcome to go look it up.
I had
Not
not
the
heard that. But
Yeah, it's not something I that I want to bring up really, other than it is a thing. So that will
now
also,
my curiosity is piqued.
yeah, well, look it up.
I'm looking it up right now. I won't
Yeah.
bring it up.
Um, yeah. So that's unfortunate. I will move from the White Sox because we're talking.
Oh.
I mean, you can't really talk about anything too much. Yeah, there's not really anything positive to talk about with the White Sox other than Luis Robert, and we've already talked about him and how awesome he is. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to the minor leagues. So Colson Montgomery made his return to affiliated ball this past week,
Ooh, has he?
and he got put in Winston Salem on a rehab. A rehab after his rehab in the ACL in Arizona, and in a week he's hitting 600 and he's got a 1647 OPS. So
That's pretty okay, right?
yeah, not so bad. So I mean, personally, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I would like to think that he's going to be in Birmingham when they reopen after the All Star break here on Friday.
I don't like to assume anything, but at that point, I feel like if they don't have him in Birmingham at that point, somebody needs a good talking to. So
Yeah, I mean,
we need to do a finger wag at somebody on that one.
yeah, there's no reason for him. I mean, clearly, until his last at bat where he did get rung up and he worked the count. I think it was like an 8 pitch at bat or something, and the guy just happened to throw him a really nice breaking ball that happened to come over and catch the zone, so he struck out. But before that, I think he had like a 640 batting average or something, through an entire week of games. So yeah, pretty good. Noah Schultz also made another appearance in Kannapolis, and last year's. So I mean, talking about because they've had the injuries. I'm talking about the last two first-round picks from
Right.
the last two drafts. But Noah Schultz made another appearance in for Kannapolis, and he is now at a total of 12 innings pitched. He has allowed one hit, one walk. He's struck out 16. He has an 0.27 batting average against, and he's got a .17 whip. I'd say the only thing that basically we're waiting on now is just prolonged pitch counts. If he can get his pitch count up, hopefully, I mean, he's pretty much been like at like a 15, an average of about 15 pitches an inning. So I don't see any reason why, when he starts getting up to like 4 innings or something like that, like just bump him up. I mean, there's unfortunately, like I know that they're trying to ease him in and whatever, but it's like he's pitching against toddlers. It's not
I
fair.
was gonna say when you can't you're not learning anything pitching against competition that is that far beneath you. I mean, when you bring up a whip that the whip that he has, I mean that's in the phenomenal territory, and
Yeah, that's like
it
sub Jacob DeGrom whip.
right.
When he was at the peak of his career in New York.
So yeah, I think it's probably like you said, you get him stretched out a little bit more, and we'll probably see him make the move as well too.
That would be nice. Um, So, because we have a shorter, we have nothing to talk about other than the home run derby, and tomorrow's the All Star game. I don't care. It's the All Star game. Hopefully, Luis Robert gets an at bat and does something awesome. Other than that, I really don't care. Stay healthy, come home, and retain your swing that you've had for the first half of the season. Otherwise, I don't
Oh,
care.
you don't want to see the American League win so that the White Sox, when they make it to the World Series, have home field advantage.
Did they
Oh
do
wait,
away
they
with
stopped
that
doing
rule?
that.
I think they
Yeah, they
stopped.
did away. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that the White Sox are making the playoffs, let alone go into the series. So
Yeah, no shot. I
sorry,
mean,
poor
like,
attempt at humor there.
yeah, I mean, like I'll probably have it, I'll watch it, but I don't really care, and I don't certainly really want to talk about it on
I
here.
probably
So,
will have it on as background noise while I work on other projects around the house. To be honest with you.
I mean, I will say that the MLB All Star Game is, in my opinion, the best All Star game that exists in pro sports. But I mean, the bar's set pretty low. The NBA, they don't play any defense. Hockey, the skills competition is better than the All Star game. Um, and
Yeah,
the
the
NFL
NBA
is a
same way.
yeah,
The
NFL's a
dunk
joke.
contest is better.
It used to
Yeah, the
be. I mean,
NFL
at
is
this point, I'm not even like really that thrilled. I think the 3-point competition is a lot more fun than the dunk contest. But I mean, the NFL. I mean, now that they've started doing the skills competition stuff, it's at least that part of it's fun. But the game is an abomination. Um,
oh, absolutely.
yeah. So
It's,
just
might as well be flag football.
yeah. Move over to something else that is something that will hopefully inspire hope and at least take your mind off of the terrible baseball that is being played by the White Sox. And let's talk about hopeful future White Sox players. Uh,
Yay!
as I'm sure everybody that is listening knows, um, the MLB draft started yesterday. And I have to say, I know that a lot of people were not thrilled about the first night. Um, but a lot of those people that were not happy about the first night after the second day are feeling a lot better about things. And I will say, I do have a little bit of an axe to grind here. Um,
Okay.
I so people complain. I mean, I understand that all the fan bases are like this. That it's kind of like the New York the Giants when they would draft, and every single guy that they drafted, would be booing. It's kind of like that whole same thing, you know. It's pretty much like no matter who the White Sox took in with the first pick, or I mean, it's pretty much nobody who they took with the first pick where people are really going to be psyched about, unless it was their guy, you know. And a lot of people said, "Well, Jacob Gonzalez is not my guy." And a lot of people were, they're like, "Well, he's a shortstop, and his speed profiles as a first baseman or a DH." Besides the fact that he just played 3 years of SEC shortstop, with a very good glove.
Yeah, solid defender.
And that's who the White Sox take with the first pick is the shortstop out of Ole Miss, Tim Elko's old teammate Jacob Gonzalez, left-handed hitter, good left-handed hitter with some serious pop, and his sprint speed is slower, but from what I've seen and obviously from what I've read, he makes up for his lack of speed with smarts.
Yeah, the highlight reels I watched of him because I hadn't seen anything other than the highlight reels. But the highlight reels that I'd watched of him, I mean, he looks like he's got a good quick step defensively. He might not be the fastest full out runner, but he's makes some really quick moves in the holes playing shortstop. And if you're a left-handed bat that's got some pop, hello, Chicago White Sox have been looking for that for how long now? I can't see why you would be too upset about that. Short porch and right field plays at home. 81 games a season. So I would say if he does make the move, he makes it through the minor leagues and makes his way up onto the big league club, that's probably going to be a plus for the White Sox having a left-handed power bat.
Well, if we know that the White Sox are looking for left-handed hitters. Well, you just happen to be in luck. Of the 4 position players that the White Sox took in their top 10, all 4 of them are left-handed hitters. So, different profile for 1 out of the 4. The other 3 are, power guys with good bat to ball as well. But Eddie Park, the outfielder out of Stanford, is more of a contact guy. He's capable of hitting a home run, but he's more of a high average guy, and they picked him in the 8th round. But I regress. Move back to the 2nd round. This is the other one that just got that put people over the edge. If the White Sox, if they don't like Jacob Gonzalez, then the 2nd round pick was the one that really put him over the edge, and that's Grant Taylor, right-handed pitcher out of LSU. And the thing that Mr. Taylor has is that he didn't pitch this year, and he's rehabbing from Tommy John surgery a la Peyton Paulette last year. And, people lost their minds, saying, why are we picking a guy that's got Tommy John? There were other comparable pitchers out there that would have been just as good that they could have drafted that didn't have Tommy John. And, my response to that when people said that stuff was, have you not been watching what Mike Shirley's been doing? This is, he did that with Peyton Paulette, and the thing is that you look at that pick, and they said that he would have been drafted in the 1st round had he pitched this year. That is exactly what Mike Shirley does. A guy that he can get at a good value for a lower slot.
Took the word right out of my mouth. He went and he got himself a value pick. And people were upset about that. I'm in the boat with you, the same boat with you, that I don't understand why people are losing their minds. Mike Shirley has shown a penchant for finding some guys who actually might do some things, as opposed to, you want to go back between like 2010 and 2000, what was it, 20? When did Mike Shirley take over? 2021?
He took over for Vaughn. No, did he take? No, he wasn't there. He wasn't the head for Vaughn. So it would be Montgomery would be the first one he took.
Yeah, so 2 years ago.
Or no, not Vaughn. His first, I think his first one was Garrett Crochet. And
yeah, I think you're right.
Jared Kelly, I think.
Yeah.
Which Jared Kelly's made a, now that he's been doing the piggyback thing, his command's gotten a lot better, and he's thrown some pretty decent outings. I mean, granted, the innings count has, he's still hitting 5. He's hitting 5 innings, which is something that you couldn't say that he was doing when he was starting half the time. So, right. Maybe this piggyback thing, long reliever thing, is going to work out, and if he sticks in that role or whatever, I don't know. But, Garrett Crochet. People are complaining that the White Sox drafted a reliever in the 1st round, and the thing was he was supposed to be a starter, but because of COVID, it sped up his timetable, and they're like, well, we've got this guy who throws 102 in the minors, and he's showing that he's got some promise and that he could get some guys out, so let's just go ahead and bring him up and have him do a relief role in 2020 because we're going to the playoffs. And unfortunately, they've kept him in that role, and he's not stretched out. And, so, and then he needed TJ, so, which he's now recovering from. And, to be honest, his command has not been the best so far. I think it's going to be a little while for his command to come back. His velocity, he's hitting 99 down in Charlotte and in Birmingham. So that part's awesome that his velo's back. But we need to get that command sorted out. But
Yeah,
yeah, the drafts have been, I think that the Mike Shirley drafts have worked out generally pretty stinking good. And if you look at
and
last
that
year's
was my
draft,
point of even bringing that up. It's my point was is we go back before Mike Shirley took over, and we look at the guys that were drafted in the first and second round of those drafts, and there were a lot of people that were happy with
mhm.
those picks, and you go back and you look at the history of those picks, and not many of them. I mean, sure, a bunch of them made it to the major leagues, which in and of itself is something to be said because there are a lot of guys drafted in the first round that never even see the big league club. But uh the point is you hope there was a lot of hope for guys like Zach Birdie, Zach Collins, Carlos Rodon, all those picks. And Carlos Rodon looked really good after he finally got himself healthy and then he got hurt again. And I might have a little egg on my face for that one because I thought he was back to right, but apparently not. Although he hasn't missed a ton of time and has looked pretty good since coming back again. But you know, the thing is when you get these high hopes, and nobody was mad about any of those picks, and they didn't really do much for the
Oh,
White
that's
Sox. I
because,
mean,
well, I mean, see, here's the thing, is that when you bring that up, then the shift goes from the talent evaluation side. Then they
to
shift to
player
the
development,
player development side, and they say, well, the White Sox can't develop anybody.
right?
Besides the fact that like, did you ever think that, like, I mean, have we ever seen really a guy leave the White Sox that was a bad draft pick, go somewhere else and just be amazing? No, not really. You know,
No,
I mean, the
no, the
guys
guys
that
that were
leave,
bad right off the bat,
yeah, I mean,
they
like,
stay bad.
yeah, I mean, exactly.
Carson Fulmer,
I mean, granted, Blake Rutherford right now. I don't know.
yeah,
I haven't looked since I tweeted about it, but for the Washington National system, he's hitting like 345 with like 11 home runs or something. But you know, for the most part, like guys don't leave the White Sox and become awesome. It's like they go elsewhere and they do the same thing that they did here, which is struggle. They might have like an initial jump off period where they look good for like a couple of weeks, but then things even out. Um,
well, and the other thing too about Blake Rutherford is, I don't pretty sure the White Sox didn't draft him.
yeah, he was a Yankees guy,
He was a Yankee,
but
so
we didn't develop him. And
well,
like,
that's true. Okay,
yeah, my whole thing is that you know to blame the development team to me is a bit kind of lazy, because I know for a fact that the development team is not telling Oscar Colas to swing at outside sliders all the time, or inside, in his case, inside sliders. Like they're not telling him to chase pitches; they're telling him to not do it. But the thing is that he still does it. Like you can tell somebody
Yep.
something till you're blue in the face, but if they don't listen or follow that advice or are not capable of doing that, then all of a sudden, well, the player development team isn't doing their job. So, yeah, that's my
Right.
my axe to grind with that stuff. Um, so today, with the first pick, with the third round pick, the first pick of today, the White Sox took Seth Keener, a right-hander out of Wake Forest, and solid,
Big upside.
yeah, big upside, solid numbers. Can't be mad about it. It's just to me like I look at these number like these guys and the things that they do, and it's all high upside guys. And judging by Shirley's 2022 draft, where he drafted extremely well, and you've got guys coming out of the woodwork putting up great numbers, in Kannapolis and getting bumped up, to Winston-Salem and still putting up decent numbers. Like Connor McCullough, Drew McDaniel, Mason Adams, Jacob Burke. I mean, just like the list goes on and on and on. Brooks Baldwin. I mean, there's so many guys that are all putting up solid numbers that came from the draft last year. And so, like, I'm of the opinion, like, I'm going to let Mike Shirley work, I mean,
Absolutely.
big shocker here. He might know more than I do.
You don't say.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, that I do have a Twitter account, and that, in its very nature, makes me an expert on MLB drafts. But I will concede that maybe he does know a little bit more than I do. So, he's going to go out on a limb on these guys. Guess what? I'm there until he proves otherwise, with, several bad drafts in a row, that he doesn't do a good job evaluating talent. And as of right now, I can't say that. So,
No, I was thoroughly impressed. Again, especially with last year's draft, and you know, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt until it proven otherwise. Just like you, I can't. I don't have any other words. Really, it's one of those things where you like you said, having a Twitter account makes you an expert on MLB drafts of sorts. There's a lot of takes out there, and there's a lot of people who they don't even share the same reasons for not liking these picks. You brought up the speed for one of the reasons why White Sox Twitter didn't like. The other one was like, we have all these shortstops, and
I did see that.
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of other. Yeah, we got Colson Montgomery, and we got Lenny Sosa, and we've got all these shortstops in the system. Why do they need another shortstop? And then you get the people out there say, well, shortstops can play anywhere because they're just generally, as a shortstop, you're a generally good athlete, so you can be moved around, which might be the case. But I think the White Sox really believed that they took the best player available at that particular moment. It wasn't about shortstop. It wasn't about where the position was. They felt like they took the best player available. They spent, from what I understand, and from what Jacob himself said, that they spent a long look at him at the combine, a lot of hands-on, one-on-one stuff with him, and they really liked what they saw out of him. They might be looking for someone who can be developed, somebody who's coachable,
Yeah.
instead of somebody who's got the prima donna attitude that's not going to be coachable and is already kind of found his spot, his top out. And there's, we've seen it before. There are guys out there. They peak when it comes to draft time, and when they hit, the lower end of the minors, maybe they look okay, and as they move up through the ranks, they don't look so great, and they're really not coachable. So, I'm going to let the White Sox front office and scouting team do what they do.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. Like the other thing about Jacob Gonzalez, now that you're bringing him back up, is that
Sorry.
one of the things about him is that the guy's got a super high OBP because he walks a lot.
Imagine that.
Colson Montgomery walks a lot. Mario
Imagine that.
Camaletti walks a lot. It's just like they keep on getting these guys. Terrell Tatum, Jacob Burke. All these guys walk a lot. That's great.
I mean, could you imagine a team wanting guys with good plate discipline? I couldn't imagine why.
Yep.
Watching this current White Sox roster.
Yeah.
Why would you want guys with good plate discipline?
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't tip your scales at least a little bit to say, okay,
Right.
well, at least this guy takes walks and he can swing the bat. Okay, yeah, he's a little bit slower, fine. Whatever. But he did pretty okay in the SEC, which happens to be pretty competitive. So whatever.
Yeah.
So with their fourth pick, the White Sox took Calvin Harris, not the DJ, catcher out of Ole Miss. So another Tim Elko buddy. Calvin Harris, his big claim to fame is that he hit 4 home runs in a playoff game, which is fairly impressive.
That's good.
Yeah, but very good defensively, and big power bat, also left-handed. So that checks off a couple of boxes right there. So then the White Sox go Christian Upor, left-handed pitcher out of Gulf Coast State Junior College. Left-handed pitchers. One thing that the White Sox farm system was very deficient in, but with this draft and last draft, they've addressed it quite a bit. The White Sox have a bunch of guys in Kannapolis, and now kind of matriculating up to Winston-Salem, a bunch of left-handed guys that are looking pretty stinking good. Not to mention, the number 1 pick, Noah Schultz, last year. Another left-handed pitcher, Lucas Gordon out of Texas. He was the ace of the Texas staff this last year. Nasty, good. It's just stacking these talented guys,
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where, you just you're sitting here watching these picks come off the board, and when it gets to the end of day 2, you look at the list of names and you're like, all right, that's something that you can work with,
Right.
So this next pick, the 7th round, is my personal favorite.
The kid out of is that the kid out of Jacksonville State?
No, Downers Grove North.
Oh, right.
Yeah, George Wolkow. He's outfielder out of Downers Grove North. He was a South Carolina commit, but the White Sox managed to talk him into signing, and he's supposedly going to Arizona next week to do physicals and sign with the Sox. 6'7", big power bat, fast, cannon for an arm. He played for a pretty big organization here in the Chicagoland area. It's at Downers Grove, the Long Shots. It's like a pretty big
travel ball team.
Yeah, travel ball team that gets you in front of a lot of college scouts and stuff. And he was committed to going to South Carolina and managed to pick him up in the 7th round, which, I know that because there was a lot of college guys picked, the White Sox were able to save on some of that bonus money and funnel it his way. And, this is the high school guy, a la Colson, Montgomery, Noah Schultz that they're swinging big on in the first couple of rounds, for not couple of rounds, but apparently they were in on him in the 2nd or 3rd round, something like that. But for whatever reason, it got pushed back, and 7th round, and he's going down to sign. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. In the 9th round, Jacksonville State, right-handed pitcher, Jake Peppers. Solid numbers. I can't. There's not one of these guys that the one thing that everybody complained about was Jacob Gonzalez's speed, and the fact that he didn't profile as a shortstop, and that's why they didn't.
And maybe
him.
Maybe he doesn't play shortstop for the White Sox. Who knows?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Some of those people might be right, or maybe he does. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that I had somebody mention to me was, well, he's not going to beat out Colson Montgomery for shortstop, and I was like, he doesn't have to. He has to be good at baseball. If he's good at baseball, we find a spot for him. He doesn't have to specifically beat Colson Montgomery. There's no reason that him and Colson Montgomery can't play next to each other. I don't understand the. I know just people just don't like the pick, but getting angry at it afterwards, I don't understand. personally. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the last pick, Zach Franklin, right-handed pitcher out of Missouri, and he's done some relief work. High velocity guy. He does get hit around a little bit, and they're saying that I don't know, maybe they're going to work on some mechanical tweaks to try and add to the deceptiveness of his pitches, and also possibly try and shape his pitches a little bit more so you get a little bit more movement out of him. Again, we'll see.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me about where I would rank people, in the White Sox top prospects. And I mean, I took a wild stab at Jacob Gonzalez. But my whole personal opinion is that until I get eyes on them and until I see them play, it doesn't really, like, the rankings don't mean a whole lot to me. Because we, Norge
Vera,
Vera,
a whole lot to me in general.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that as well. But I mean, like, look at Norge Vera. He rocketed up the White Sox prospect list before we even saw him throw a pitch. He was up to like 3rd or 4th in the prospect rankings.
Yeah, where's he at right now?
He's thrown like 6 innings this year or something like that. Like, I haven't even looked at the stats, but I mean, he hasn't thrown. He's been injured. He had lost a bunch of velocity last year. Prospect rankings. Okay. I could take him or leave him. So anywho,
unless the guy's like in the top 25 or so, like overall MLB prospect rankings. And I don't even really pay attention a lot to the bottom half of the top 100, honestly, because you can go down that list every season and find a bunch of guys who don't even make the majors.
That's true. I think like in the top 100, I think that the percentage of a guy that gets in the top 100 is like 25% or something like that. Like a quarter of those guys make it and
right,
and have like a serious cup, at least. But yeah, like I'll look at the top 100, and if a guy's in the top 100, generally I'm like, okay. The guy.
Well, you're paying attention to him, but
yeah,
he's obviously got something to get into that ranking when you're talking about, thousands and thousands of players throughout, minor league systems. To make that top 100, you're obviously a good ball player. But, again, my point is that even a lot of those guys will never see an MLB ball club.
Yeah. So Ladder Enjoyer says, who's going to tell the Orioles they shouldn't have drafted Jackson Holliday because they already had Gunnar Henderson? Case in point.
I don't know. It's that's kind of apples to oranges, but still, yeah.
Well,
no, I agree.
I mean, to this situation, yeah, but I 100% agree with you. Like, I'm just like that's not my thing. Like, I'm all for getting as many talented guys. I don't care what position they play. If they're talented guys, we'll find a spot for them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Too many good shortstops is not a problem. I 100% agree. So silly.
Well, the thing is we don't know if any of the shortstops we have are any good yet. I mean, Colson looks good so far.
Well, I mean, his bat's advanced. Great bat.
Absolutely.
But the glove needs work.
Plate approach is really good.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens when he hits AA, which, like we said earlier in the show, will probably be any day now. But yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody asked me if he was gonna go to Charlotte, or if I thought he was gonna go to, or if he was gonna go to Birmingham, or if he was gonna just go to Charlotte. And I was like, last year the Project Birmingham, he struggled at Project Birmingham, but I do think that he had a couple of valid reasons for that. One being a super long season, his longest season he'd ever played by far, followed by an obvious bump in competition, and only having 2 weeks or something like that to prove that he could do it. All I'm saying is that he was pretty good in, he was really good in Winston-Salem last year, but what we're seeing from him in Winston-Salem so far this year is absurd. So
Yeah.
I see absolutely zero reason for him to stay there. So I'm hoping they do bump him to Birmingham this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the other part of that too is as well as he's doing at Winston-Salem right now, he did just get back. It's been a very short return for him so far. So skipping levels is probably not conducive to success
Yeah,
at this
probably not the best
particular
idea.
point. No.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like in his first, I think in his first game back, he had 2 errors. You know, so I mean, this is like, and this is the thing that I always say about Colson Montgomery. Kid's a great player. His bat is phenomenal. I think he can stick at shortstop, but the glove's going to take time. And it's like if the White Sox do that thing where they just, the kid can hit, so they just rocket him through the system. If he can't play his position at shortstop, you just can't stick him out there,
Right. Right.
Somebody has to, somebody has to be held accountable for those kind of decisions.
Especially when most people will say that the shortstop is the commander of the infield. You cannot have a gaping hole there.
Yeah.
Defensively, it doesn't bode well for winning baseball games.
Yeah, see Chicago White Sox to know that you can't have gaping holes in your defensive alignment.
Right.
I mean, whether it be, your shortstop throwing the ball all over the place, whether it be your right fielder diving and missing the ball by 6 feet. I mean, just so many different things, and we've seen all these guys that are put into positions that they shouldn't be in, or just in general can't play their position, and they're there for their bat. How about we develop these defensive skill sets, and then fine, let Colson Montgomery hit 300 in Birmingham, for this year in the first half and next year. I don't care. Develop the glove. Make sure that he can play the position, and then move him up. I mean, yeah,
absolutely.
Ideally, you'd want to have him move quick, but
I hate to bring back old quotes, but we saw it with the 2 guys that this quote became popular with, and it's he needs to check all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it with those guys. Everybody was clamoring for Eloy to come up. Bring Eloy up. Bring Eloy up. Bring Eloy up. And what, you and I were like, yeah, the bat's great, but defensively, he needs to work on the routes that he runs. He needs to work on getting a better jump, and he needs to work on his throws. Those were the 2 biggest things, was his reads and his throws. And what do we see from him still to this day? Same thing. His reads aren't always the greatest, and his throws aren't always the greatest. So, he needed to check some boxes. And, we saw defensive improvement before they did finally bring him up.
Yeah.
And it still hasn't been great.
Yep.
So, let's not rush. Let's not rush to the conclusion, because we're looking at a guy's batting average.
That's what I'm saying. You got anything else before we
I think we
kick this one off?
No, I think we can wrap this one up. It's All-Star week. It's been a short week for us between shows because our schedule's been goofy. So after doing a live stream on Thursday, it's now only Monday.
Yeah.
And it's All-Star break, so
yep.
I'm good.
We get a few days off here of baseball, which is a good thing. Being a White Sox fan, having no baseball is probably the best scenario I can envision. But we will have 3 games before the next stream, which should be next Monday as well.
Yeah, hopefully some movement in the right direction will be made between now and then. We'll be able to talk about maybe a couple of these draft picks getting signed. And yeah, we'll hopefully have a much more fun show lined up for next week.
Yes, indeed.
Not that this wasn't fun.
Yeah, no, it's good. just standard amount of complaining about people saying things.
I mean, how can you be a White Sox fan and not have something to complain about right now?
I mean,
I mean, if it's all rainbows and sunshine and bells and whistles and butterflies and the whole 9 yards for you, you're probably medicated.
yeah, I mean, there's so many
Well,
opportunities for complaints that I can't necessarily blame people, but yeah. At Daily White Sox on Twitter, whitesoxdaily.substack.com for articles and such in this podcast form of this program. You can find this in stream form on YouTube. Just search White Sox Daily. Also on Facebook, we also have a White Sox Daily page. Yeah, thanks for coming in tonight and hanging out and listening. And thanks for checking out the podcast. And we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for coming out. Have a great night.